Hey now, what's going on? I don't know how I'm gonna do on these. I have some Doctor Who trivia questions from 2013. I have a particular relationship with Doctor Who. It started as a kid when it was on PBS, and I had no idea what I was watching. And I'm like, this is weird. I think what freaked me out about the old Doctor Who was the the photography, the cinematography styles between if they're filming indoors versus if they're outdoors. I couldn't get a grip on it in my head because indoors were clearly a studio and it was shot like on videotape, but the outdoor scenes looked like a movie scene where there was outdoors. They must have been using film, so it was that mix match or whatever. It always messed with my head. I appreciate the old shows now. I can't really. Yeah, sometimes I sit down and watch them, but I gotta have something very specific going on to watch them. They're kind of tough. They're kind of tough to get through. I've read a bunch of the old novels. Things of Doctor Who are mixed. Fond memories of Peter Davison. That's not his name. The Celery Doctor Who. That's one I remember as a kid. The Russell Davies. I always want to say Russell Peters. That's a whole different person. The Russell Davies Doctor Who's Christopher Eccleston and why am I blanking on the other Kilraven? Who, man, yeah, David Tennant was the name. How I could suddenly forget that? Suddenly forget that. I don't know. Okay, so the David Tennant shows were awesome. Um, and then when he left and Russell Davies left, um, I kept watching the show, but it was not good. None of the Sherlock guys shows as a showrunner. There were too many suspensions of disbelief. It interrupted what I was willing to believe in a sci-fi show. It became too meta, too self-referential, and I just did not enjoy watching it. The Matt Smith ones, no, none of them worked for me. And the next one, I can't remember his name. The one with Queen Victoria in him. Why can't I remember it? See, this is where I am in my Doctor Who. The potential was always there, but the writing ruined the entire run. It did not land. So many key elements were missing, and what really finally was the nail on the coffin was when Peter Capelli, that's his name, right, or something close to that. When he did the whole thing about the teacup. It doesn't matter where the teacup comes from. Well, yes, it does. That's why we want to absorb ourselves in the show. Don't do postmodern Doctor Who. It matters where the teacup comes from. All right, so that didn't do any favors for me. And I could be old man yelling at cloud, but it had all the potential in the world and a lot of key elements, and I just wanted to get into the show, but I was like prevented from doing so for whatever reason. Like, we need to be reminded it was a show. This is whole issue I had with postmodern literature, but I can't blame it on, don't remember his name, Moffat, I think is the word. I don't know what he was trying to do, but in my world it failed, and it became a show that was almost not watchable. And even when they did cool things like bring in not William Hurt, yeah, John Hurt, bring in John Hurt from 1984 fame and Aliens as like the war doctor. I'm like, hey, this is gonna be cool. This kind of goes somewhere, and it kind of did, but then it didn't. And I tell you what first got me off course was that first season of the Matt Smith show where I don't get how Rory was a Roman centurion for 1,000 years and was waiting for what? I don't know. And this breaking conventions and just kind of just doing what you want and not explaining it is not doing anyone any good. It's not even worth a puzzle to. It's just sloppy. It was lazy. So that's where I'm at. And I don't know why they're trying to make the Matt Smith Doctor so epic, and it didn't work for me, and that's where I'm at. We're not even getting any questions. I feel like that's my general context for Doctor Who. I finally got to love Doctor Who when it was Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant. I think that's the clear majority of Doctor Who fans, and the ones who just enjoyed the show because it was a show. And I think that's the way it's been since that run was ended. And a little bit of that has rubbed off on how I'm to watch the Jodie Whittaker episodes. Oh, I just watched her last episode, and that was really my first exposure to that Doctor, because I used to be able to watch Doctor Who's on Amazon Prime, but they moved him to another streaming channel, and I'm like, I'm not paying just to watch Doctor Who, so I'm going to wait. But in the meantime, all this toxic vitriol on the YouTube was aimed at the Jodie Whittaker Doctor Who, and I'm like, what is the deal with this? I mean, this is just not even rational. This spewing hatred, mostly from individuals that look a lot like me, and are probably in my age range, and that's troublesome, to say the least. But I like that last episode she was in that just aired from when I'm recording it. I don't know what it was called, but when she becomes David Tennant again, or whatever. I'm like, okay, this was really one of the best Doctor Who's I've seen since David Tennant left. And and really those last couple David Tennant episodes weren't really great either. But so I'm like, well, this isn't bad. I don't understand what I do understand. So long story short, I'm going back. I'm watching the Jodie Whittaker episodes, and I think my wife and I are both watching. And I think we're in episode 5 or 6, and some of them have been so. But others of them have been great. We just finished the Partition episode, which they also did a play on in the Miss Marvel series as well, and I'm enjoying the experience. It's a good show. I hope it continues that way. I'm gonna fall back and do that. All right. So I'm not gonna get into any trivia questions today, but this has been on my mind. Partly why I just do this is to show evidence that a 40-year-old American male can just geek out without feeling like something's being taken away from him, or that new ideas have destroyed one's childhood, or whatever is going on in the world. That said, I can still critique the Stephen Moffat Doctor Who's because something went wrong with those. Well, maybe I should view them again. I mean, I'm up for changing my mind, and maybe I'll get to this card and demonstrate just how weak I am on Doctor Who trivia. It's gonna be worse than the Beatles trivia questions I do. So I'm gonna leave it at that.